Good morning. It's Monday, January 11th. I want to tell you about a discussion that I had with my brother the other day. I was talking to him. He's a psychiatrist. And I said, you know what? Anybody can be president in this country. If they get themselves on a stage and they talk to people and they tell them stories and they make claims and they make promises, and nobody has any idea if this person is capable or willing to fulfill the promises they make. And I'm saying this because of the last 4 years, because of the wall, because of the income taxes. We never saw the income tax. That was a 4-year lie. It's under audit. It's under audit. It should be mandatory that the candidate show his income taxes. It's obvious that voluntary producing of the income taxes didn't work this time around. And what about the swamp? The swamp that wasn't drained. The swamp that still exists. The swamp that has probably been increased by his presence. So, I'm thinking that the primary system has outlived its usefulness and that we don't have to be so democratic that we vote to get candidates to run for us. What we need is something like the party system, like they used to have, where the party, the Republican Party and the Democratic Party and the heads of those parties sit down. In my mind, it looks like a smoke-filled room, but I don't think people are smoking that much anymore. They sit down and they review the possible candidates. And they make decisions based upon their experience and their mental stability and perhaps their honesty. And of course, there's party loyalty that we have to be aware of. So that was my idea. And in addition to that idea was the fact that I believe that to be a presidential candidate, you should be vetted. You should have a psychiatric examination before you become a full candidate, a medical examination. And you should have a good examination of your history as a person. Because I think if that had happened, then Donald Trump would never have been a candidate for president. If a thorough examination of his activities and his mental stability and his physical health, etc., had been reviewed by something that I'll call a vetting team, and he probably would not have passed. So while in the 1970s we fought vigorously to get the primary system in place, I think we left certain things out. Things that the political parties of themselves would take care of. I mean, before we had a primary system, we had some pretty good presidents. And those people were aligned with the party, and the party put them forward as the presidential candidate. And they didn't do a bad job. So why in the world were we fooled into getting this primary system that we have? A system that allows people who have no political experience at all to stand up there and tell us they want to be a candidate. Like Andrew Yang. I have no problem with Andrew Yang. He hasn't said anything to indicate that he would be a bad presidential candidate, but he has no government experience. In fact, even some of the people with government experience don't deserve to have been on the candidate list if you took a good hard look at them. So I'm in favor of changing the system. I am really in favor of this changing the system. I think it's an incredible disgrace what has happened to us over the last 4 years. What's even more of a disgrace is that there's 75 million people who are behind this guy, this candidate. And let's not forget the senators and congressmen who were against him when he was nominated, when he was running as a candidate. And they said vicious things about him. They called him dumb and irresponsible, and they didn't like the idea that he had names for all of them. He was very an unsophisticated slob in their minds. And how quickly they turned as soon as he won the candidacy and he won the election. Then they couldn't get enough of him, and they stood by him with all the shit that he performed over the 4 years. They kissed his ass for 4 years. Yes, the Republicans deserve all the blame. And now said he's not coming to the inauguration, which I guess is not going to upset Biden. It's certainly not upsetting me. And I think the inauguration in my mind should be in some closed door with only a half a dozen people there. Maybe just John Roberts and Joe Biden. Because the way the Trump supporters act, they'll show up at the inauguration and go crazy again. And how could I say that? Well, it just proved to me over the last couple of days that could happen. How do we know that our Washington, D.C. police will be on the ball? How do we know that anybody would be on the ball? They allowed those clowns to do all that damage to the Capitol. So why wouldn't I think that something bad could happen at the inauguration? Even though I don't really believe it. It's such a remote possibility. But I will bet you that protection is beefed up for this event, even though there may be hardly anybody there. So that's all I have for now. I'll be happy to see you in the morning. Bye.